We're taking a peek into geek culture and sharing our top 10 fandom favorites. Let Your Geek Sideshow presents Geek Culture Countdown. Hey guys, this is Kitty.
And this is Chris.
And we are coming to you from the Sideshow Studios in Southern California. Welcome back to the Geek Culture Countdown. This week we've searched our feelings and ranked the top 10 lightsaber battles in Star Wars. Most Star Wars fans have dreamed of what it would be like to wield a lightsaber in our hands, and these battles represent the best of the bunch. Epic fight choreography, the highest stakes, and the biggest names in the galaxy fighting to prove that they are strong in the Force. Vwoom, vwoom. Fire up those sabers and let's get swinging. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you for having me.
This one is very exciting. We're kind of in the Star Wars time of the year, the late holidays, and I thought there was no one better to count down Star Wars with me than you.
Yeah, no, this is pretty exciting. And when it comes to lightsaber duels, I think this is a pretty fun topic right now.
So for listeners who may or may not be familiar, because this is your first Geek Sideshow podcast with us.
Yes,
congratulations.
Thank you.
You're a pretty big Star Wars guy.
Yeah, I'm pretty big.
Yeah. All right. So you did help me come up with this list, which was a huge, huge help because I know a lot of people have opinions about a lot of things Star Wars, but especially putting this list together was pretty difficult in the office. So let's just get started. Number 10 on our list, after much deliberation, number 10 on the list is Obi-Wan Kenobi versus General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith.
This one's a good one because you have a Force user versus a non-Force uzer, almost like a cyborg, if you will.
Yeah.
And what's fun about this one is that he's got several four arms with multiple lightsabers, and these lightsabers are his trophies. Mm-hmm. And he even tells Obi-Wan that he was trained in the lightsaber mastery from Count Dooku. So this one's a pretty fun one because you have a non-Force using cyborg versus a famed Jedi master. So this adds an interesting dynamic to it.
Yeah, and it was fun to see both the physical augmentations and then limitations of the cyborg. I mean, I just love seeing him do the kind of whirly copters with the lightsabers. Yeah. But some of the maneuvers that Obi-Wan can do, he couldn't do, and it made for a very interesting fight. It did get a little strange in the second phase where it was a vehicle showdown.
Yeah.
But it is overall a very fun and very interesting lightsaber battle, and I think one of the strengths of the prequels, which actually people might notice the prequels will come up a lot on this list, the prequels really set the tone for what lightsaber battling looks like because the original trilogy, there were, for all intents and purposes, really no more Jedi. And so the few people left who could duel with a lightsaber, it was a much more toned down type of fighting style.
You can definitely tell that even though in the original trilogy fights almost a little bit more slow, almost like a fencing style. Mm-hmm. But when you consider maybe someone like Darth Vader, who's pretty much he's mortally wounded essentially, so he could be much slower, and Obi-Wan, who's probably almost in that same regard. So even though it may seem slow, but I think it's almost a little bit more elegant, and as opposed to the more fast-paced jumping and dashing that you see in the prequels. So they're and also there's a lot of expanded universe stuff where it talks about all the different lightsaber forms. So that kind of clarifies in that regard of the type of lightsaber dueling that can go on.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that art form can take place. So number 9 on our list is Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul in Star Wars Rebels. So we're jumping to the television universe.
This one's cool because it's essentially a tie-in, almost like the changeover from the prequels to the original trilogy, because you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul, former adversaries, because you have Obi-Wan who thought he had killed Darth Maul, and then here he is again on this battle on Tatooine. So it ties. It's like a nice tie-in to both the original trilogy and the prequels.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting because I was rewatching a lot of these fights in preparation for the podcast, and this one is actually, I think, ostensibly the shortest of the duels on this list.
Yes.
It is over in 3 strikes. And it's very fascinating to watch because the animators for this, they had Darth Maul try to use the same move on Obi-Wan as took down Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah, and what I did like about that is that he anticipated that, and because Darth Maul was essentially almost going to do like an uppercut, but Obi-Wan anticipated that and sliced right through his lightsaber.
Yeah,
which is cool.
and it was just it was a very fascinating scene because there was so much tension, especially in the initial build-up where they take their stances with the sabers, because you do see Obi-Wan first kind of draw back into that prequel, like it's like the holding the sword back and ready to, but then he kind of brings it in front of him in the way that we remember Alec Guinness doing in A New Hope. So it is very interesting to see that, as you said, that place where the seams start to connect between the prequels and then the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. This was a cool battle. As although it was extremely short, it was extremely poignant as well. So keeping in the animated universe, number 8 is Darth Vader versus Ezra, and then Ahsoka on Malachor in Rebels as well.
This one has Ahsoka, and she's probably one of my favorite characters of the animated series, both in Clone Wars and Rebels, because she's one of those characters that matures throughout the series. Mm-hmm. And this one, you have like the former friend and apprentice of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. And this one's cool because they got James Earl Jones to reprise his voice role as Darth Vader. And, and Ahsoka's fighting style is very neat in the regard where she holds her lightsabers like kind of reversed, like the blades, like she holds them in a unique way. And her fighting style is very, very unique in that regard. And
she wasn't even the first of the saber wielders to have two. I mean, Maul has the dual ended, but there are several other characters who've wielded two, namely Asajj Ventress and Dooku also had two kind of sabers at once. Right. But yeah, she does have a very interesting. I don't even know what proper fighting terminology that is, but the way she holds her sabers is very interesting. And I really also liked this was the meeting of two people who were both at some point disillusioned with the Jedi, but they took vastly different paths to get there, and they're both incredibly skilled people, once friends, this was a really fascinating and really cool thing, and I think Rebels did a really smart thing in their narrative by bringing back so many of these like fated duels together.
Right.
Yeah, and it's cute. I mean, you do have Ezra who's like, I need more training after he witnesses this go down. They also have a very nice fluidity to the animation, as most of the Star Wars series do. They have that very stylistic or stylized animation, but there is a fluidity, and it mimics the energy of what they were able to get in the prequels for the lightsaber fighting.
Right.
So back to the prequels, live action. Number 7 on our list is Mace Windu versus Darth Sidious.
Now, this one's cool because this is such a pivotal moment in Revenge of the Sith where, Anakin finally knows who Darth Sidious, like Palpatine, he's Darth Sidious, and this is the Sith lore that they've been looking for all along. And so Anakin goes and tells Mace that, like, hey, Emperor Palpatine is the Sith Lord, and Mace is like, okay, well, we'll go and deal with him, but we're gonna need you to sit this one out. And so Darth Sidious, like, I think he threw these Jedi off guard because I don't think they were expecting like how powerful and how fast he was, and he just tore right through all those other Jedi except Mace Windu. But I think Mace Windu, he stood his ground and he was almost able to take him down. But Anakin, he was so pressed on making sure he can keep Sidious alive.
Yeah, that arrival of Anakin is always such a moment, because it's at that point where you kind of think like, oh, like maybe he's gonna he has his choice literally in front of him, and it was also nice to see Sam Jackson get to throw his purple lightsaber around a little bit more before he's shoved out the window. And we do get the famous not only literally exposing Palpatine for what he is, but the physical transformation with the Force lightning. And prequels are also really good for memes. So I'm like half torn between the emotional connection and like the laughing, but the unlimited power.
I am the Senate.
It's treason then. And a lot of again, going through this list, not only do the prequels show up on our list a lot, it's a lot of Revenge of the Sith, because not only did we consider either the innovation with the sabers being used or the characters in the fight, but some of them are like, a lot of these fights, they don't just break out for fun, they break out at pivotal moments in the series. Again, and some of the ones in the prequels do also get a little silly as they run long. But ultimately, when you draw this one back to the core of what it is a very important duel. And it also leads the way for as Sidious transitions into a fight that does come up later in the list. But number 6 on our list is Rey and Kylo Ren versus the Praetorian Guard, marking the only entry, I believe, into the sequel trilogy on our list. Because again, in a time where there's not as many Jedi running around, you don't have as many massive fights. I mean, this one stands out to me personally as my favorite in the cinematography, the colors, just the choreography of the battle.
See, what I like about this one is that you have these two Force users wielding lightsaber blades, and they once both on opposite sides team up to fight. Like, I believe there were 6 of them.
About 6, yeah.
Yeah.
After Kylo Ren has severed Snoke in half.
And that alone was such a pivotal moment in The Last Jedi there. Like his deception towards Snoke to initiate this battle was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. And the whole fight and the choreography in this was really neat. And it reminded me of it reminds me of like the Old Republic, when there's these massive battles between Jedi and Sith, and the Sith weren't they didn't follow just the rule of 2, there was multiple like Sith masters and apprentices, and
they weren't so much working from the shadows and then like striking out at key moments. There was an overwhelming presence of Sith as well.
And the fact that I think this one really points out the fact that like even outnumbered, like it's all about trying to overcome that massive surge of enemies and teaming up with the enemy of my enemy is my friends, if you will. So I think
and to that end, I really did like that both at kind of in the resolution of this fight there, they both want custody of they want custody of the Anakin saber, but also at the end they both think, like, Kylo's like, I really want you to join me and you can be alongside me as I'm Supreme Leader. And Rey's like, what the heck? I thought you were like, you did away with Snoke so that we could be like done with this empire. Mm-hmm. And so that misunderstanding, I wonder how much of that, I guess you would have to know in the script internally, but how much of that kind of played in for them, like their willingness or their cohesiveness to work together. I mean, as we see, throughout that trilogy, they are fated in a way that is different from others, but yeah, that particular battle, they resolve it and they're like, now you'll join me, right? Wait, no, I thought you'll join me. And it lended something really cool and also bittersweet to the end of like watching them work so well together to take down the guards. And yeah, the colors used were just fantastic in the cinematography. Now, number 5 on our list, jumping back to Revenge of the Sith, we've got Yoda versus Darth Sidious. And this is after the battle with Mace Windu. This one was a big set piece where the environment was part of the battle. I was just about to say that, like, I like this one because that it literally takes place within the Senate chamber. So they're using the Senate pods as like a way to attack each other. Mm-hmm. So that adds like a nice dynamic to it. And Yoda, like, he tries to, like they each try to find ways within their force powers, and also not just the lightsaber duels, but like where they physically use their environment to try to destroy one another. And, when we look at like Empire Strikes Back, if you will, when Vader uses, he's pulling stuff and throwing them at Luke. So it's essentially in the same regard, but like massive objects. So I think this one's cool because of the surroundings. And they do also represent at that point in the series the pinnacle of the Jedi and the Sith. You've got two of the like if not the strongest, like these are the figureheads of both organizations. And it, like, say what you will about CGI versus puppet Yoda, it's interesting that we get to see the Yoda in his prime, and this is I mean, just before he has failed and exiled himself. And so it's kind of Yoda's last gasp at trying to make sure that the Jedi can survive. And throughout these battles, I mean, whether or not there's only two people fighting, there's a lot of it's just a fascinating thing of the balance of the Force, and how the Jedi believe that the balance of the Force means they win, and the Sith believe that the balance of the Force means that they win, and it, ultimately that's not what balance means. So I think this battle represents that well. I also like when battles actually get subnames. This is the skirmish in the Senate, like that's what this one is known as. So yeah, I like when they're so big that they get that sub name.
Right.
So number 4 on our list, we're the top 4 I think all have the most emotional weight to them. Not only because of what they represented where they came up in the series, but the people battling had the biggest emotional stakes. Number 4 on our list is Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin Skywalker on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith once more.
And this is another, like, the pivotal moment of Revenge of the Sith and the final battle between Jedi Master and Jedi Apprentice. And at the end of the battle, the final creation of Darth Vader. And you know, and it makes you really wonder, like, you know, like if Obi-Wan just, you know, had the heart to either put him out of his misery or but at the same time though, like we think like this whole battle like takes place on this lava infested, almost volcanic planet. So you're kind of hoping that, you know, our hero Obi-Wan Kenobi will become victorious. He does, but at the same time though, like we know how it's going to end because Anakin becomes Darth Vader in the form that he is. So, you know, it is very emotional in that regard, especially when, you know, Obi-Wan, like his brother, his friend, his apprentice, you know, like, you know, it was definitely, you know, it's heartbreaking in that regard, but it's like one of the strongest emotional lightsaber duels.
Yeah, and you do get a lot of the dialogue within between all the fighting and the jumping over the panning droids and the lava explosions. You get the kind of core of what the Jedi and the Sith feel, because he's like, oh, this is my path to the Empire, and we're gonna make a better world. And he's like, well, if that's what you believe, you're already lost. And again, through the emotional charge of like, you were my brother, and like that always gets me. He said you were the chosen one. You're supposed to destroy the Sith and not to join them, which again, it's so fascinating. And Obi-Wan's reluctance to finish the job is very interesting, because it would have been very different had he done away with Darth Vader. But again, that's not in his character. I also think this, maybe excepting Grievous, because I didn't actually count, this might have the highest limb count claimed for battles, because it's both legs and then the arm that was already lost.
All in one swipe.
Yeah, all in one swipe. But yeah, I'd have to go back and double check how many limbs Grievous lost, because I know he got a couple hands cut off.
Yeah, I want to say it was probably just the 2 hands.
Just the 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the hands, arms, legs goes to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Number 3 on our list. Now we're jumping to the original trilogy. It was pretty hard, I think, between number 3 and number 2 to figure out which went above the other.
Yeah.
But number 3 on our list is Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader on the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi.
Now, this has to be one of the most pivotal moments of the original trilogy, where you have the Emperor like watching as his apprentice and his son go head to head against each other to claim the title of the possibility of one of them, you know, killing the other and becoming the apprentice.
The Emperor has like a front row seat to like the best sporting event in the galaxy at that point.
Exactly. And this really defines the whole Anakin redemption and defiance against the Emperor. And Luke is not only was he able to overcome Darth Vader, but he defied the Emperor by, you know, throwing down his lightsaber and saying like, no, I am a Jedi, and like my father before me, like what you did to him like is no more, and like we are Skywalkers, and we are the Jedi.
Wow, it's like I'm actually there. I mean, yeah, that's the emotional core of it. And I also do like that you can kind of see, I mean, this one was really tense, and it had a nice, as they move through the environs, I think the Bespin one was almost a little more tense because of, and spoiler alert, the next one is the Bespin fight. Because of the Bespin had the like unknowing, like I've never fought Vader before, but this one had a different sense to it. And there's a point at which you can tell where Luke is no longer just fighting to win. Like he's not fighting his father. He's more fighting for his father, even though that a couple of limbs do have to get cut off in the process. But yeah, the renunciation, denying the Emperor, it's just a really cool thing, and it showed a lot of maturity to Luke's character. I mean, the emblematic, the black suit was a big advancement in his character, in his arc. I also like that someone pointed out, which it only has retroactively, I guess, taken on the meme effect. When Luke's standing at the top of the staircase and Darth Vader has fallen down and he says, Obi-Wan taught you well, it's because the other guy has the high ground
Luke
once
has
more.
The high ground, yeah.
But in all seriousness, it's also a challenge for Luke internally, not even against the Emperor or Vader, to maintain his control and what he's learned and not give in to the hate that the Emperor is suggesting and kind of egging him on to do.
Right. And I think that moment where he sees his father's, cybernetic hand being cut off, and then he's looking at his own hand and he realizes like, oh, like, because he was essentially like striking down Vader in almost anger, if you will. And that's what the Jedi are not supposed to do. But like he almost had to, just to defeat him. And then at that moment, like he realized like, oh, like I do not want to become my father. And he told the Emperor like, look, no, like there's no more of this. So, it's all about that redemption and defiance.
Yeah. So as we kind of gave you a preview of already, number 2 is Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader in Cloud City on Bespin from The Empire Strikes Back. And this, I think, is one of my personal favorite for the cinematography is the Praetorian Guards, but this is, if not one of the most like recognizable battles, most iconic scenes in all of Star Wars, with the blue background, the silhouettes. You've got the orange like slats of the carbonite chamber kind of area. So I mean, just from the visuals alone, this is one of the biggest of the fights. Yeah, and so Luke has just returned from Dagobah. He's ready to help his friends. He thinks he's done his crash course with Yoda, and he's like, all right, I'm ready. I got to go. I got to help them. But this is a big learning moment, and it's a quintessential part of a hero's journey to have them fail, and then are they going to get back up and continue? Now,
with this battle, you have someone like Luke Skywalker, this is essentially like his first major lightsaber duel with not only like a Sith Lord's apprentice, and also like a former Jedi Knight. So you have Luke, who's thrown into the mix. He's got like a crash course in Jedi training through Yoda and Obi-Wan, and he's doing everything he can to overcome Darth Vader. And not only like is he not only does he lose a hand, but like he learns the truth that Vader is his father. Like probably the moment of the whole Star Wars saga is
the series defining plot twist.
And I mean, this one's cool because it also utilizes the set pieces as well, because Vader wanted to use the carbonite chamber to capture Luke, but Luke, you can kind of like, because he jumped up really quickly, almost like that force jump. So, he was able to. That was kind of a surprise to Vader. So that was a nice touch there. And then
I like Luke throwing himself off the platform at the end rather than be captured. And
yeah.
So you do have that kind of strange, like the weather vane kind of, and the weird platform and the kind of like inverted dome like bowl of Cloud City. I'm sure there's actually official terms for all the parts of Cloud City, but I don't know them. But yeah, it was also a really cool staging ground, and to set them against a gray to go from the blue and orange of the carbonite chamber, and then when they're in the light, it's the dull gray, so all you see is the black spot of Vader, like coming down on Luke. There's very few duels that can top that scene, but for our list, we had to give number 1 to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. I personally think for signaling the what is to come in both the Golden Age and then the fall of the Jedi and what types of lightsaber battles and the activity of both the Sith and the Jedi that fans could expect, there was nothing better than capping off The Phantom Menace with this Duel of the Fates going on.
Yeah, this lightsaber battle right here was like, it was so fast paced and well choreographed, and then you have Ray Park as Darth Maul, who's just like this martial arts genius who's handling these two Jedi with this crazy, the first time where we see this double-bladed lightsaber come into action. And what I really do like about this one is also the music. The fact that it's this is also one of these moments where it's almost very Old Republic in a time where like the Sith, they were such a formidable force. But even though like now you have Darth Maul, like the apprentice of Darth Sidious, and there's, pretty much probably the only two Sith at this time, but like Darth Maul, he's handling his own against these two Jedi, and the skill and the wits these two Jedi and the Sith like go against each other. Like it's so fast paced and well done, and and Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan, like he not only is he my favorite character, but like this alone was also his defining moment to become a Jedi Knight.
He really does sell, because we didn't get. I mean, we'd only had the length of a movie with these characters, but we don't get that much more with Qui-Gon Jinn. But like Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor really does sell that emotional turmoil, but also then the resolve. And it's fascinating to watch him almost give in to anger. And I know there's always a nobility sense of like, I have to avenge my master. But it is just fascinating to watch that fight resolve. And then we've got the dancing around the giant floor pit and the punch of the dual bladed saber, and then like cutting it down to just one, and now it's just one, and then having two lightsabers in the fight. That it was storytelling that Star Wars hadn't gotten to do, and they came out of the gate really strong with the type of like, this is how intense a 2-on-1 fight could be, and there's going to be victors and losers, and it cemented Darth Maul's place as a fan favorite character. The song is one of my favorite songs ever.
Hands down.
Always. I know all the lyrics, it's just the high pitched squealing and singing. But it's interesting because it doesn't have the nostalgic emotion as the Luke and Vader fights, but it has a different type of emotion of like, this is a different galaxy that we're walking into. Now,
the fact that I was just watching the Phantom Menace a few weeks ago, and Obi-Wan was essentially like if you think about it, he was the first Jedi in 1,000 years to defeat, not necessarily kill, but to defeat and best.
He got the acclaim later, thanks Rebels. But.
Exactly. So he was the first Jedi in 1,000 years to defeat a Sith Lord, and that was essentially Obi-Wan's trial. That was his step into the trials, and that alone was his automatic knighthood, if you will. And watching at the end there, and when Obi-Wan is with Yoda telling him like, okay, we'll let you, we'll give you knighthood as well as have let Anakin become your apprentice. So I think that was one of the defining moments for Obi-Wan, because that was his first step into knighthood, because he was the first Jedi in 1,000 years to kill a formidable Sith Lord.
Yeah, and it is fascinating to see how young he looks in those moments where he's watching from the other side of that like force field gate, watching Qui-Gon be struck down, and then yes, if you go and then watch the Rebels fight, it is a nice cinematic like parallel to watch Darth Maul try the same trick with him again, and he's well prepared for it this time.
Right.
There were so many duels that people suggested and we wanted to include. I know a couple of people in the office really liked Asajj Ventress and Anakin in the original animated Clone Wars. We had a lot of love for the first fight with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in A New Hope, which for all of the nostalgic weight that it carries, it pales in comparison, I think, to these
Right.
types of other fights. But it is fascinating, and I mean, we all can't help but wish that we also had a lightsaber. The force jumps, I mean, that was a game changer as well when they implemented that. And I remember one of my favorite Star Wars anecdotes is there was a museum exhibit for Star Wars one time, and I only had about $10 for the gift store because we went on a school field trip, and for some reason, and this is probably my path to becoming a Sith. The Darth Vader lightsaber was cheaper than the Luke lightsaber, and I really wanted the Luke lightsaber instead.
I remember those, yeah.
But the Darth Vader one, for some reason, was just slightly cheaper. So I ended up buying the Darth Vader lightsaber instead, and that's why I'm a Sith Lord now.
Nice.
No, but yeah, so it is fun, and it is really cool to see these battles bring the emotional weight to what a battle should be. It's not. At the end of it, it's not just a frivolous toy to swing around and smack your siblings with, but like it is a elegant weapon for a more civilized time, but the instigation of a lightsaber duel means something in this universe, and I think these 10 specifically are the coolest game changers, plot twists, emotional moments of the series.
Yeah, definitely.
So, to recap our list, number 10 is Obi-Wan versus General Grievous. Number 9 is Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul. Number 8 is Darth Vader versus Ezra and Ahsoka. Number 7 is Mace Windu versus Darth Sidious. Number 6 is Rey and Kylo Ren versus the Praetorian Guards. Number 5 is Yoda versus Darth Sidious. Number 4 is Obi-Wan versus Anakin on Mustafar. Number 3 is Luke versus Darth Vader on the Death Star. Number 2 is Luke versus Darth Vader on Bespin. And number 1 is Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn versus Darth Maul. So was this list strong in the Force, or should we cleanse our kyber crystals and start again? If we missed someone that you think should be on the list, be sure to check out our blog and send us your opinions at podcasts@sideshow.com. And that was the top 10 lightsaber battles in Star Wars. Do you enjoy the Geek Culture Countdown? We are proud to bring you pop culture content completely ad-free, but that doesn't mean we don't need your support to help keep us going. Please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform and help spread the word about our podcast. We welcome fan feedback. Email us at podcasts@sideshow.com with your thoughts and suggestions for how we can make our shows even better. Plus, tune in for our other pop culture podcasts. See your favorite comic and film characters evolve across 2 generations in the bi-weekly Then and Now podcast. Hear exclusive interviews with celebrities and pop culture industry leaders as they let their geek side show in Look Who Showed Up. Then get all the latest pop culture news with our daily briefing, a 2-minute breakdown of all the biggest geek headlines perfect for your Alexa or Google News briefings. We wouldn't exist without your continued support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.